This video is sponsored by and available on ProtoPlay, an alternative video hosting platform focusing on creative freedom for both content creators and viewers alike. Check it out with the link in the description below, or feel free to grab the app found on Apple and Android devices. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to our latest episode of Combat Tips. Today's episode is going to be featuring the old school Special Forces General, Sonya Blade. As with all of these videos, if there's any particular piece of information you've come here to learn today, feel free to hop on down below to either the description, the timeline, or the comments where you can find timestamps that will let you skip to anything I feature in today's video. And of course, if there's any particular inputs I use today that don't entirely make sense to your particular platform, feel free to use this conversion guide right here, and that will allow you to take whatever I say in today's video and convert it onto any platform currently hosting Mortal Kombat 11. And of course, here we are, hopping right on over to the customization screen, and that is to show you that as of this video's release date, I have all 25 out of 25 finishers for Sonya Blade, which means today's video is going to be featuring 11 different brutalities. So of course, we're going to be starting off with the Classic today, but again, if there's any particular brutality you have come here to learn, feel free to hop on down to the timestamps below, and they should get you where you gotta go. Let's get started. So the Classic, folks, let's hop right into it. First off, you want to make sure that you do not block an attack during the final round. And to clarify, the final round for you as a player is either round 2 or 3, just whichever one you are going to be victorious on. So just make sure you do not block on whichever round you think you're going to be victorious on, alright? Next up, you simply want to make sure that you finish your opponent with an uppercut, and while you're doing that uppercut, you want to hold either Y or triangle based on your respective controller. Let's hop into it. So of course, folks, an uppercut is down Y or down triangle, and it should look just like that. So here we are on round 2, folks, and this is going to be my victorious round as Sonya. And something I like to clarify, as you can see here, is that if you do accidentally push the block button and don't take damage, that's okay. Alright, just something to clarify, because sometimes it's very much a reflex for me personally to want to boom, hit that block button, and as long as you don't take damage on your final round, it's okay should you slip up like that. Okay, just keep that in mind. So let's move in for the final strike, folks. Remember, on your final round, you do not want to block any attacks, so just keep that in mind. Should you be like me and boom, hit this by accident, that's okay, as long as you don't take damage. And then last, but certainly not least, you want to finish your opponent with an uppercut, and while that uppercut's happening, make sure to hold either Y or triangle respectfully. Let's go for it, folks. What can I say, folks? They call it the Classic for a reason. Next up, we have the up, up, and away brutality. Now this one's going to require that you finish your opponent with an amplified air control, and then while that is happening, make sure to hold down. So the air control ability is going to be down back Y or down back triangle, and as you can see, whoosh. It's essentially an anti-air move, which means we of course want our opponent to be up in the sky. So as you can see now, boom, that is what we're looking for right there. Now we of course want the enhanced version of this ability, so after you push down back Y or down back triangle, make sure to tap R1 or right button after you have started attacking them in the air, and as you can see, we should get, oof, that right there, a little head slam to the ground. A tip I'll offer to folks who want to force their opponent up into the air: if you use the Overwatch combo, which is back X and then Y and A, or back square and then triangle and X, as you can see, boom, that pops our opponent up into the sky, and from there you can chain the air control move, and as you can see, we should be able to, boom, whack our opponent up in the air and then whack them with that air control. So just something to keep in mind, totally optional, but if you need a way to get them up in the sky, that should do it. So moving in for that final hit, folks, remember, all you have to do is finish your opponent with that amplified air control and then hold down during that final animation. Personally, I'm going to be doing the Overwatch combo to show you that chaining it does work well. Let's go for it. And holding down. Oh! Brutal. I mean, it is a brutality after all. but just having a wire around your neck and having it pulled so hard, oof. So next up is the popping heads brutality. Now if you do decide to perform this one, you want to make sure that you have more than 50% of your health remaining, alright? So more than 50% if you decide to go for this brutality, and beyond that, all you got to do is finish your opponent with a towards throw, and while that animation's happening, hold forward. Let's go for it. So for a towards throw, we of course want to be moving towards the opponent, and from there you can tap L1 or left button, and as you can see, we should get our towards throw animation. Easy. The same goes for arcade style players. Just be moving towards your opponent and push square and X at the same time, or X and A at the same time, and again, boom, you'll still get your towards throw. No problem. So let's end this opponent, folks. Remember, you want to have more than 50% of your HP remaining if you're going to go for this one. As you can see on up here, we are good to go. If you're above this notch, personally, you are also all good to go. Beyond that, all you got to do is finish your opponent with a towards throw and hold forward during that animation. Let's go for it. Holding forward. That's one hell of a way to be choked out with that wire. Jeez. Next up, we have the grenade jumper brutality, and this one's going to require that you finish your opponent with a back throw, and while that animation's happening, you want to push down at least 3 times, but if you ask me personally, just spam down during that animation. Best way to guarantee these work. So by default, for a back throw, you can simply push L1 or left button with no other inputs, and as you can see, boom, we get our back throw. Same goes for arcade style players, X and A at the same time, or square and X at the same time, and as you can see, boom, you'll still get your back throw. Easy. Let's end this, folks. Remember, you just want to finish your opponent very simply with a back throw, and while that's happening, push down at least 3 times, or, again, if you ask me, just spam down. Best way to guarantee it. Let's go for it. Spamming down. Woo. And the little head splatter at the end. Nice cherry on top to that gore explosion. Jeez. So next up we have the kill shot brutality, and this will require that you have the summon cat turret ability in your arsenal, so of course please do make sure that's ready to go and we can move on. Now the criteria for this brutality will require that you summon the cat turret at least 3 times at any point during the match, simply summoning it. That's all you have to do. And then last but certainly not least, you want to make sure that you finish your opponent with the cat tantrum ability. Let's move in. So to summon the turret is going to be down back B or down back circle, and as you can see, boom, we have summoned our cat turret. And here's summon number 2, and of course summon number 3, and that gets our criteria out of the way for that particular requirement. Now as for the actual cat tantrum, after you have summoned the turret with the down back B or down back circle, you're going to want to use the exact same input, down back B or down back circle, and as you can see, call it in, and then the same input again, send it out. Oof. So let's put an end to this, folks. Remember, all you have to do is summon the turret at least 3 times at any point throughout the match, and then last but certainly not least, finish your opponent with that cat tantrum. Let's go for it, folks. And it just keeps going and going and going and going. Rough. I like this one. It's just very unique in that it uses that turret. I mean, you've heard it probably a million times before if you watch these videos. When they can incorporate their own individual abilities or powers, big fan of it. Next up we have the Bullseye brutality. Now this one will require that you have both the summon cat turret ability and the turret trauma abilities, both in your arsenal. So of course, please do make sure you have that good to go before we move on. So if you do decide to go for this brutality, the first thing you want to make sure you accomplish at any point throughout the fight is to use the detonate cat move on your opponent, and it has to hit, alright? Don't just use it, it must do damage, alright? So keep that in mind. Last but certainly not least from there, you want to make sure you finish your opponent with the leaping 50 cal ability and hold forward during that animation. Let's put this all together right now. So again, to summon the turret is going to be down back B or down back circle, and as you can see, boom, we've got our turret. Now of course the requirements first ask that we detonate and hit our opponent with that exploding turret. In order to do that, we're first going to go ahead and summon the turret again with down back B or down back circle, And from there, you simply push down, down B or down, down circle. And as you can see, we can set it into explosive mode and hit the opponent. Easy. So the next thing we want to talk about is the leaping 50 cal ability. So again, we're going to go ahead and summon our turret. And from there, you want to push down, down Y or down, down triangle. And as you can see, boom. That is the leaping 50 cal we're looking for. Let's squash yet another bug, folks. Remember, at any point throughout the match, you want to hit your opponent at least once with the detonating cat ability. And from there, you simply want to finish your opponent with the leaping 50 cal ability and hold forward during that animation. Let's go for it, folks. Summoning our friend and going in for that leaping 50 cal. Oh. The worst part about that one is they have a huge hole in their head, and yet they kind of gurgle and gasp still. I don't know. That's very unsettling if you ask me, but it just adds to the brutality of it, you know what I mean? So, well done. Next up, we have the busted brutality. Now, very straightforward. This one simply requires that you finish your opponent with the amplified leg breaker, and while that animation is happening, hold up. So the default leg breaker is going to be back forward B or back forward circle, and as you can see, there we have it. Now, of course, we want the amplified version of this move, so after you have caught your opponent with that leg breaker, make sure to tap R1 or right button, and as you can see, oh, we enhance right into their face. So let's end this, folks. Simply enough, hit your opponent with that amplified leg breaker, and make sure to hold up. Let's go for it. Oh. Oof. I mean, can you imagine just getting stricken so hard with a kneecap that your head just explodes? Because it just happened. So next up we have the Kisses ability. Now this one will require at some point throughout the match that you perform a mercy on your opponent. And if you're not sure how to do that, I will display it in just a moment. But beyond that, you also want to make sure that your final hit comes from the energy rings ability while you are considered far away. And of course, I'll display what that looks like as well. So first off, let's just focus on the energy rings. That's back forward X or back forward square, and as you can see, boom. Now, of course, when they say far away for this brutality, what exactly does that mean? Of course, it may be a little bit up in the air depending on who you ask, but if you want my answer personally, I'd say if you happen to be right up against your opponent, 3 backdashes away from them, 1, 2, 3, should put you far away enough to get this brutality to work. Backdashes are not required at all, but if you want a quick way to gauge it and are unsure, there you have it. So now let's talk about the mercy. Now there's 3 steps involved that I like to cover when going over how to perform one. Essentially, the first step is beating your opponent onto the finish him screen. Alright, simple enough, beat them onto the finish him screen. The second step after you've done that is you want to get to about medium distance. And again, a quick way you can gauge that, should you be up against your opponent, is 2 backdashes in this case for medium distance. So 1, 2, and that is your medium distance. And our third and final step, we're going to want to hold the flip stance button, which is L2, the one that makes it dance like so. Hold that down, then you want to push down 3 times very quick. 1, 2, 3, and then let go of that flip stance button. Okay, so again, hold flip stance, 1, 2, 3, let go. And that is the third step to getting this mercy. Let's give you a live demonstration. So again, folks, beat your opponent onto that finish him screen. From there, you're going to want to get to about medium distance. For me, that's 1, that's 2, flip stance, 1, 2, 3, and let go. And that's it, folks. Easy enough. Alright, folks, so with that mercy requirement out of the way, we can finish our opponent. Remember, you just want to use energy rings from a far away distance, and as I suggested, 1, 2, 3 backdashes. That is about a good distance to get this brutality to work. Let's fire off those energy rings and put this to an end. Mwah. I believe this is a classic reference. It's been a while since I've played some of the older ones, and there's so many fatalities out nowadays, but I do recall this being one of Sonya's more classic, memorable fatalities back in the day. So this is, again, a great way to bring those back in brutality form, since in comparison, nowadays fatalities are so much longer and more animated, more intricate, stuff like that. So next up we have the 1-2 knockout brutality, and this one will require that you have the crushing counters ability in your arsenal, so do make sure you got that good to go, and we can proceed. The requirements here, very straightforward. Make sure to finish your opponent with that standing counter, and while that animation's happening, hold either A or X on your respective controller. Now the standing counter is going to be down back A or down back X, and as you can see, boom, there it is. That is the animation we're looking for. But of course, this being a counter, it works much better when it actually parries a move. So let's go for that here, see if we can get that to work. And that's what we're looking for, folks, if you get the standing counter to work proper. So let's end this, folks. Remember, all you got to do is finish your opponent with that standing counter, and while that's happening, hold either A or X on your respective controller. Let's go for it, everybody. Holding A or X. Ooh. Goes for the extra kick to the jaw. Brutal. Next up we have the Here Comes the Boom brutality, and this one will require that you have the aerial ops drop in your arsenal, so do make sure you have that set up, of course, and we can go on. Regarding our criteria, we're simply going to want to finish off the opponent with that aerial ops drop, and while that's happening, push down at least 3 times, or as I always suggest, just spam down. Now the ops drop is going to be down L1 or down left button while you're in the sky, of course, and as you can see, we kind of reach out and go for a grab, which certainly means our opponent probably has to be up there with us. So let's go for that right now, and as you can see, that is what we're looking for in terms of a proper ops drop. Now here's a totally optional tip, but something I like to do to sometimes force my opponent into that ops drop grab is to simply jump through the air and hit A or X while moving towards them and give them a little kick like so, and as you can see, that pops them up into the sky very briefly, and right after they're in the sky, I'll usually push down L1 or down left button, and as you can see, boom, a great way to transition into that ops drop without even needing to have the wall or barrier up against your opponent. Let's end this, folks. Remember, just finish your opponent with that aerial ops drop, and while that's happening, push it down at least 3 times, or as I like to suggest, spam down till your opponent is done. Let's go for it, folks. Boom. Oh.
What a mess.
Beautiful. Again, I mean, it's nothing crazy in this particular case for some of them. I mean, it's nice and hands-on, but I definitely was a bigger fan of, you know, the wire, having the robot interact, stuff like that. Those are definitely some of my more favored Sonya brutalities. So our last brutality for today, folks, is called, what did you say? For this brutality, you're simply going to want to finish your opponent with the ass whooping ability, and while that's happening, hold forward. Let's hop into it. Very simple move, folks. To get that whooping going is going to be back forward Y or back forward triangle, and it should look, oof, a heavy flow of combo right there. Love it. Alright, everybody, last finisher for today. Remember, you want your final hit to come from the ass whooping ability, and while that animation is playing out, hold forward. Let's go for it, folks. Holding forward. Oh. See, this one isn't too crazy in terms of hands-on, but I just love the aesthetic. You may want to play that back, but if you notice, they kind of very, very, very briefly freeze frame all of the hits in that combo right there, and I don't know. That's just a nice aesthetic. It's a very nice feel, and if you ask me, it makes the brutality all the more enjoyable, so let's move on to our concluding words for today, folks. So there we have it for today, folks. Sonya Blade has now been added to our Mortal Kombat 11 Brutality tutorial list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed her. I certainly did. She's definitely one of those characters that just has so many awesome combos, aerial abilities, and just is very good if you like physical, hands-on fighters. As you likely noticed at the start of this video, this content is sponsored by ProtoPlay, so if you want to help support me and their company alike, feel free to check out my channel in the description below over on their website, and simply dedicating just a little bit of your time means the world to me, so thank you so much. If you did enjoy what you saw here today, feel free to reflect that down below, either in the form of a like or a comment, and if you want to see more content like this in the future, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can find out exactly when more content like this is gonna go live. That'll be wrapping it up for today, folks. Thank you so much for all the support on these videos, and thank you so much to everyone who's reached out to me in the past couple weeks. The passing of my father has probably been one of the toughest experiences I've ever had to deal with in my life, so just kind of working through it as every day comes has been an experience in itself. I really appreciate to all of you viewers who have reached out to me, left kind comments, and also been understanding in the time I've needed to just, be myself, to grieve, and do what I gotta do. So again, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate your patience. I appreciate you supporting my channel, supporting my content, and hopefully we will catch you all on the next video. So until then, folks, remember, as always, stay safe and stay happy. Adios, everybody.